guys, welcome back to 10 by 10 Discipleship, the Basics, where we have been learning over the last 9 weeks about what it means to be a faithful follower of Jesus. We've been talking about things like Bible study and prayer and service and church involvement. Last week we talked about the importance of persevering, of not just doing those things for a little bit, but actually persevering to the end. But we have to ask the question, but what is the end? And so that's what we want to be looking at today. And I think that's so important because, man, when we understand it, when we get a glimpse of it, when we see what the Bible says about the end, I think it will be a great encouragement for us to keep following hard after Christ. Death can be difficult to talk about for anyone. It's hard to think sometimes about the end of our lives. It's always hard to say goodbye to those that we love and have to let them go. I mean, those are, without doubt, difficult things. And yet, for the Christian, for the follower of Christ, for the one who has turned from their sins and trusted in Jesus and is following after Jesus, death is not the end. Death is the beginning. And death is the beginning of great and glorious truths. The Bible promises and tells us and gives us this wonderful picture of what is going to happen to all the followers of Christ after they die. In other words, it gives us the picture of the finish. Now, I'm sitting here today in what we call the boiler room at our church. That's the boiler behind us. It's what keeps us warm in the winter. This is about the dirtiest, dingiest, ugliest place I could find in our church building. It's about as bad as it gets. And the reason why I'm here, and the reason why I want you to see that, I probably should take you around and let you see some of the stuff that's on the floor and everything else. But the reason why I want you to see that is, in one sense, if you think about all the beauty and all the wonderful things that we experience in this life, and very wonderful, great things, all the beauty that we see, just all these wonderful things, that's kind of like this room that we're in. As pretty, as wonderful, as beautiful as this life can be, it is absolutely nothing compared to heaven. It's absolutely nothing compared to what it's going to be like to live with Christ forever. So I want you to hear just some of these pictures that the Bible gives us of what heaven is going to be like. We were told that that we shall be like Christ. This is 1 John. That we shall be like Christ and we shall see Him as He is. We're going to actually know Jesus, see Him as He is. Not only that, but we shall be given imperishable bodies. These bodies that are always getting sick and always breaking down and always, growing old. No, we're going to get imperishable bodies. That's what we're going to have in heaven. We shall enjoy, and I'm quoting Paul here, an eternal weight of glory that's beyond all comparison. That's what he says over in 2 Corinthians 4. An eternal weight of glory. It's beyond all comparison, right? Not only that, but we shall be with Christ. That's what Paul's arguing in Philippians 1. He wants to stay and continue to serve the Philippians, but he wants to go to heaven because he wants to be with Christ, which he calls will be great gain. To die is gain in that sense because he gets to be with Christ. The author of Hebrews in chapters 3 and 4 describe heaven as this eternal rest where we will be with the Lord, rest from our labors and rest from our toil. Not only that, but listen to, this is John over in Revelation 21. Listen to how he describes heaven. He says this, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people. And God himself will be with them as their God. And here's what he's going to do for us, verse 4. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore. Why? For the former things have passed away. What a glorious description of what it's going to be like to be with God forever. No more tears, no more crying, no more mourning, no more pain, no more death. This is the glorious picture that the Bible gives us of life after death with Christ. This is the finish line. This is the end. Now, we might say, well, why is that so important to understand? When I was, a few years ago, Glenn and I decided to train for a marathon. And I was absolutely 100% terrible at it. And part of the reason why I was so terrible is because I couldn't see the end. I could never see the finish. I mean, we're running like 2 miles or 3 miles or whatever it is, and I couldn't see that far. And it was so hard for me to run and keep going when I couldn't even see where I was going or what I was going to be doing. But the Lord didn't leave us without a vision of the finish line. The Lord tells us what heaven is going to be like. He tells us that after we've lived this life and after we've struggled and after we've fought hard, that this is what the end, this is what the result, this is what the reward will be. We get to dwell with God forever. And here's how that motivates us. Here's what Paul says over in 1 Corinthians 15. Paul kind of connects heaven and where we are today. Paul says this. Therefore, he's just described heaven in 1 Corinthians 15, just to describe these imperishable bodies that we're going to receive and all these glorious things. And then he says, verse 54, Therefore, my beloved brothers, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord your labor is not in vain. Paul says, here's this glorious picture of what it's going to be like to live with Christ. He says, keep your eyes on that. Keep focusing on that, because when you do, when you see that, you can be, here it is, steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. That's what we want to be, steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. All these things that we've talked about, reading the Bible and prayer and serving, all these things we do, we keep doing, we persevere in doing. Why? Because we have our eyes fixed on the end. We have our eyes fixed on the finish. And the finish is Christ. We're going to be with him forever in heaven. And so my hope and my prayer that you would always, always, always keep your eyes on Jesus as you run hard the race that is set before you. Well, this brings our 10 by 10 Discipleship, the basic series, to a close. My hope is that we have given you a clear path for what it means to be a faithful follower of Jesus Christ. As you meet with your discipleship partner this week, I encourage you to talk about what's next. What are the next steps? How can I keep reading my Bible and keep spending time in prayer and get involved in church and find accountability? So I really encourage you to talk more about your plan for your future in that. My hope and my prayer is that you would keep your eyes on Christ and that you would be a faithful follower of him all the days of your life.